everyone. Welcome to the Menu Mix with me, Matt Holy.
And me, George Wetz. The Menu Mix is the podcast where each week we take a leading restaurant and look at their menu to reveal some of the hidden psychological secrets that they use and also the operational considerations that have gone into making that menu. And this week we are going to be covering...
The lounges.
The lounges, that's right.
From Loungers.
From Loungers. So a bit of background on Loungers before we get going. So the group started in 2002 with three buddies from Bristol. And they basically wanted to create a place where they wanted to go out and drink. And the brand has gone from strength to strength from then. In fact, it's three brands now and a publicly listed group called Loungers. So they've created a space a bit like the Hop Doddy video we did the other week. They just wanted to create a place where they wanted to go. When they started, they didn't do any food. It was just drinks only. But as they've expanded, they've got a food offering, and that's going to be the focus of our video today. But before we get going, Matt, knock knock.
Who's there?
Lounge.
Lounge who?
Lounge around here long enough and you'll find out.
Whoa, there we go.
There we go.
Maybe not.
I think we should get into it. So we're looking at their menu here, and it's a beaut, lots of colour, vibrancy. We're going to cover a few different topics for you today. The first thing we wanted to look at and how they do something very effective is cross-selling. So Matt, tell them about cross-selling.
Yeah, that's right. So first of all, the menu you could see here, tons of dishes are listed. I believe, George, you said there was 70.
About 70.
About
yep.
70 in total. So a lot going on in the menu, lots of different places that the eye can be drawn to. But if you look at the top right segment of the menu, you'll notice that both tapas and sides have a lot of attention drawing the eye in. So not only are these categories kind of boxed in and circled to draw the eye there, but tapas as well actually has some color in the negative space to draw the eye there even more. As well, if you remember, we will have spoken about this before, but the golden triangle, this is where the eyes tend to go on the menu naturally. You don't always read it left to right like a book. So the eyes start at the middle of the page, go to the top right, and then move across to the left of the menu. So that is prime time real estate right there. The reason that they did this is because, you know, generally you're going to order a main of some sort, whether it's a burger, sandwich, or main course. You really want to drive that average check up by adding a side or having some shareables on the table with the tapas. So we think they've placed a really big emphasis in these sections on their menu for that reason.
Definitely, it's where the eye's drawn to. And as Matt says, these are the dishes where there's going to be upsell and cross-sell, where people might not have been thinking about when they first went in, but you're really driving people to take a look at these and order. There's something very compelling going on with the tapas section in particular we wanted to call out here, which is around the pricing. So you'll notice here that it's $4.95 for just one tapas dish, but you can have three of them for $13.25. So really easy to calculate, clear, straight up saving for the consumer there, where they can choose to have all of those three. Really good for groups and sharing, obviously. Very interestingly, they haven't at all listed individual prices on any of the tapas dishes, which we thought was quite an interesting way to do it, because there are some, from a value perception, you'd think, you know, say the fried chicken wings here, you'd think that would be a more expensive dish than, say, hummus. But they're not listing them out separately. We think what's going on is they're really driving you to order at least three of these. So you get the combo, and maybe the $4.95 is just if you want an extra one. But if you're going to order 4 or 5, you think, well, may as well get 6 for my table instead. So that's tapas. It's a really effective way of bundling and comboing for this kind of restaurant.
Yeah, and just on that a little bit more, we believe the pricing of the single dish in and of itself could actually cover the food cost percentage that they want to hit for literally any of the dishes. But when you bundle them together, they kind of play a law of averages there to hit that overall food cost percentage. We also know from some data from Yumpingo that when you combo menu categories in this way, giving the guest the choice to order an individual item or kind of combo it up to 3, this actually increases the guest value perception of that menu category as well as the portion perception. So very popular with, you know, tacos, things like bao buns, those types of things where you order typically 2 or 3 at a time. They've done it as well here with tapas, so really smart.
3 is the magic number. So the next thing we're going to talk about is driving promotions. So there are lots of different occasions where you might come into a restaurant, and what they've done very intelligently here is they have either, if you're coming in at a certain time of the week where maybe they're traditionally the less busy times, they're showing you time-based promotions specific to that menu category, but they're also priming people for the next time they might visit to think, if I came in on that Tuesday lunchtime, I might be able to get this promotion here. And they've done this in a really smart way, haven't they, Matt?
Yeah, that's right. So without taking up any of the like main real estate on the menu, they still draw the eye down to towards the bottom of the menu. You'll see most of them, and again, it's using that color and negative space. When you have this many items listed on the menu, first of all, they've done a good job at laying out every single menu category with different colors, so it's easy to filter down. But you really are drawn into this colored negative space where you could see Tapas Tuesdays, where you could see Cheeky Mondays, as well as the lunch promotion. So really wanting to drive guests to the meal periods that typically are lower traffic, or if you happen to be dining there during one of these meal periods, just really highlighting it in an easy way so you might take advantage of one of those promotions.
And often you would see this as a separate like a table talker or a separate pamphlet or something on the table or positioned somewhere else to draw people in those other times. It's really nice that they've integrated that in. I think just to prime regular guests that are coming in to think, I should maybe try these other times where I can get a good deal for myself. So that is what we think about driving promotions.
Next, let's talk about price tiering a little bit, because this is actually something that's kind of interesting that they've done. That we actually see with some of the larger groups in both the UK and the US. So right now we're actually looking at the menu from, I believe it's the York location. But if you go on their website, they ask you to select the location that you're dining at. And the reason for that is that there are actually different prices depending on the location that you go to, but for the same offering. So this is something that when you have a large enough restaurant group, really smart to do to tailor to, one, the level of competition in the area, but also the demographic information and macroeconomic information of the area. So what is the unemployment rate, inflation rate, what is the average kind of disposable income in that area, how sensitive are these guests to pricing changes. These things can make a really, really big difference, particularly in the more price-sensitive areas where it might actually impact their decision to go to the restaurant in the first place. So interesting to see that.
So what the restaurant's trying to do with this approach is to take a very localized view of the market and the kinds of people that are going to come in. Have they got lots of disposable income? Is there lots of competition in the area? And then being able to kind of maximize out their pricing without impacting on their overall where they want to be positioned in the market. And as the access to data and software and tools has become a lot more prevalent and easier for restaurants to access and make use of over the last few years, we're seeing a lot more of these more advanced pricing strategies happen, particularly with groups with 50, 60, 100 so locations. And so they can start to get really hyper-local with that pricing strategy and effectively kind of cap out the maximum amount they're able to charge in local areas. So it's very smart.
That's right. Yeah. And moving on, I think you noticed something really interesting about how they've listed kind of the calorie information in a couple of these menu categories. So why don't you jump into that, George?
Yeah, calories. So I think it's a regulation in most of the US as well, certainly across the UK, where restaurant groups over a certain size have to now list out the amount of calories that go into their menu items. That's really from a public health concern perspective. They wanted to make sure consumers knew if they were about to gobble down 2,000 calories so that people could make a choice about their health. And so they've just made that for the kind of the larger groups. But interesting here, so you've got a kind of psychological limit. I think a lot of people know that it's roughly 2,000 calories a day for women, 2,500 for men is the kind of standard guidelines. And so I think a lot of psychology goes into around the magic kind of 1,000 calorie number. So 1,000 calories is, that's a good proper meal that I want to be having. Now, sandwiches and flatbreads, you'll notice on here, come in significantly under that. So we're looking at 750, 804, 857. There's actually one of them that just creeps over, but you would expect it with a sandwich that's got butter-fried milk chicken and bacon in it. What they have done here, though, is normally with a sandwich, you'd get a side like chips or something, fries, and they've just listed that out separately. And I think they may have done this deliberately for two reasons. Firstly, they can keep that sandwich well under the 1,000 calories. So from a kind of perception point of view, that's nice. But then with the fries being kind of separate at lunchtime, it gives people the option to say, well, I just want something a bit lighter. I don't want the whole hog here. Same applies on the flatbreads as well, where they've got, these are actually even lower calorie dishes, but the fries are kind of as an add-on. So I think it's both a customization tool that they're using, but also to keep them under that limit and a perception that I can have a kind of light lunch here if I want to.
Mm-hmm. And the burgers, they thought, you know what, if you're jumping into a burger, you may not be looking too closely at the calorie
in for a penny, in for a pound, I think, with burgers.
That's it.
Yeah, you can get up to 1,200 or so pretty easily with a burger. But you'd expect that. It's a burger.
That's right.
Yeah. And then I think the last thing we wanted to talk about today was zooming right out. Something we spoke about at the start. It's about the execution of this and the kind of overall restaurant that they have created here. There's about 70 menu items. And what this does is it will be a lot more complicated to execute on than if you've only got 20 menu items and doing dinner service. But they have created here something wonderful, which is an all occasion menu. There's something for everyone at any time of the day, any time of the week.
That's right.
And that's really important for groups, isn't it, Matt?
It is, yeah. So while this menu may be on the difficult side to execute from, back of house operations perspective, especially the fact that they do all day breakfast, that's a high customization kind of meal period. They have a lot of kind of different flavors and ingredients that are used. So there's a lot going on in the kitchen just to make everything on this menu prepped and ready for service. But if you have a lot of people in the kitchen, but you have a larger kind of restaurant that is filled at all meal periods in the day, even kind of in between shifts, you'll maybe get some people in for like a drink and a cake or just some like small tapas, that type of thing. It really goes a long way in helping keep that back of house labor cost in line. So we believe that in terms of optimizing labor costs for this restaurant, it's really due more to kind of volume and getting people through the door as frequently as possible, placing these restaurants primarily on high streets as well, so high footfall areas, versus designing the menu to just be like super lean and tight and not have to bring a lot of people in.
And these restaurants they've created, if you go into any of the lounges, they're really beautiful spaces to be in. And so I think they've always sort of ticked that box from a consumer point of view of, oh, where could I go to? They're thinking that's going to be on the list. But the fact that they can cater to, I want somewhere for breakfast, I want to go and have a cup of coffee, I've got a quick business lunch, I want to have brunch with my buddies on the weekend, I want to go and have dinner with my family and friends, I want a light bite before we go out later. All of those occasions are catered for in this menu, and I think that's a really brilliant thing because it means that they can be at higher capacities all the way through the day, and you're always top of mind for people because they're trying you out at different times of the week and different times of day and different days of the week, and they can, I imagine, have a higher frequency of guests of coming through over and over again because of that nature. It's very smart.
Yeah, and on that as well, let's talk about allergies a little bit because they've also called out at the bottom corner of their menus. So on one side that there's a special vegan menu. They're very good about listing calorie information, and they actually have separate menus based on your dietary restrictions. So really guiding you through what you could order, but. With the rise of people, being flexitarian or vegan or other types of dietary restrictions like keto or maybe just allergies, all of these people in a group could have veto power sometimes if the restaurant can't accommodate their dietary needs properly. I think we're at a place in the restaurant industry now where it's not just throw one thing on the menu to satisfy that whole subset. You really need to make them feel included and have options. So they've made it very clear that they're like come one, come all. Everyone is welcome, no matter what your dietary restrictions. And again, it just emphasizes the point that they want as many people in the door as frequently as possible for all meal occasions.
There's literally no reason that you can think of to not go.
That's right.
So let's go. Hey, brilliant. Well, it's been great taking a tour of the menu of lounges today. Next week, we're not quite sure yet who we're going to be doing. So if you've got an idea, post us in the comments or message us. If it's your restaurant or a restaurant that you enjoy going to, we'd love to take a look at their menu and tell you what we see and share some of the delightful best practice that we are seeing across the industry right now. That's
great.
it for today.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers. Bye.